We are live.
Live Senate Appropriations, April 15th. We're on FY26 budget. We have Emily Byrne from Fiscal with us to talk about transfers, if I remember correctly.
Correct. So, for the record, Emily Byrne, I'm gonna pull up this so people
Is this?
I brought some new sheets. So these, if you will note on your big sheet, there's in 2 spots it says, or 3 spots, I think it says see supplemental sheet. Figured it'd be good to go through said supplemental sheets, so you know what I'm talking about. Let me look at those.
Is the latest version posted?
Should be posted. Ellison new Zoom. Open.
Just got to. Are you gonna go
You
through
can
both?
hand out. I'll hand out the easy one first. On that.
Which one is that?
Reversion. I have all the papers.
Okay,
You got controlling
I could run
information.
and get my iPad.
Hmm?
I could run and get my iPad.
You wanna hand the rest of you? All right.
Did you say this was transferred?
Transfers in and out of the general fund. But these are reversions.
Okay,
We're gonna do transfers next. More straightforward ones. All right. Here. Okay, so this first sheet that's up on the screen and that you have in front of you, posted online, this is the reversions from the, so reversions, remember, are prior year appropriations that can be, we sort of are eliminating the spending authority from a prior year and making that spending authority, that general fund is in essence freed up for the current fiscal year. So typically in the Budget Adjustment Act, you see a large list, or some years, this year in the 2 Budget Adjustment Acts that you've seen, there was a big list of reversions. It's usually updated at closeout, but sometimes there are reversions that are in the big bill right out of the gate. So the first, this is the reversions that are in the House passed version. We sort of assumed that the Senate would accept all of them. We haven't added or changed anything yet. So the first one is actually a small change that the House had. An additional $2 million reversion from an appropriation to the Agency of Administration for the Vermont Housing Finance Agency.
This was in the BA.
There was a reversion from that in the BAA, and then there was an additional reversion in the big bill. The funds are no longer needed for the specific purpose that was in statute, so this appropriation is available.
But is it the same one that was in the BA or is it different?
It's the same appropriation. There was just, they didn't take all of the money in the budget adjustment, so there was more money left, so they're taking more of the money.
So if the BA was to be passed, this would still be in here.
Yep,
So it's not in here just because the BA didn't pass.
correct. This is in addition to what was in the budget adjustment.
Is it the RAP 2 million or is there 4 million for the RAP? I'm looking at somebody from VHA behind you there.
Chad Simmons, Vermont Housing Finance Agency. This was for monies that were given back from the RAP pilot program to the state because we were not able to utilize all of them.
That's what was in the BA.
Correct.
So what if this is an additional 2 million to that?
I think what was in the BA was the partial amount, my understanding, and then this is the full amount that we
Okay,
gave
so it
them.
really was 4 million.
Yeah.
Of the 9 million. So, okay.
Yeah, so the House added the additional $2 million that was left in that appropriation. So this will revert another 2 million from that. The next 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all from the legislative branch. These are all prior year appropriations for things like studies or contracts that were set aside for one-time purposes. And those studies are complete, or the sort of original purpose of those appropriations, they no longer exist. And this was the money that was left over from those appropriations when those when it's all said and done. So these can be, there's no more spending that will happen out of these appropriations. So the legislature
Is the Capitol Police reversion just to show us that you do pay attention to all dependents?
is to show that we do, and until the legislature actually reverts the 99 cents, it sits there until it's gone. So this is like, we don't need to have it sitting there any longer. This was appropriated in 2023, I believe. So this is, and I think the sort of process going forward is these, like every year we'll look at anything that's 2 years old, and that we'll clean out the appropriations. So these are all prior to 2023 or prior appropriations that were made.
And this is all just the general fund. So there are reversions in the education fund and the transportation fund, but we don't worry about this.
Yes, and I can't remember if there.
Somebody else does. I know
Transportation will
talked
look
about
at,
reversions.
and the, education committees will talk about the education fund ones. And I don't remember if there are any reversions in the big bill for those two funds, but I will follow up and we can get you a little sheet on that if there are.
And that, like you said, there's usually more reversions than this. Or a lot
In
of
the
them are
budget.
already in the budget adjustment.
In the budget adjustment, there'll be an update to the reversion list, because once they close the books, they'll say, oh, there's money here we didn't need.
So any reversions we had in the BAs, which we're gonna be added to this list.
Yeah,
Assuming we take care of the BAs, but it isn't.
they will be on their own list, because they will be fiscal 25 reversions,
They'll be-
fiscal 26 reversions.
C-section.
They will be in the bill. We
Okay.
haven't figured out where they will land yet, but they will land.
So yeah, just for the committee to know, that's what we're hoping to do. And tomorrow are we doing that? The BAA?
Tentatively.
Tentatively tomorrow, we're gonna go through all the stuff we had in the BA and just confirm what we wanna have in the big bill or not.
I tried to do a tiny little piece for you.
Okay, next.
Next sheet. These are. Thank you. These are the transfers and the direct applications to the general fund. And some of these should look a little familiar. They are the one-time transfers should look familiar. I mean, they should all look familiar. They've been in the budget the whole time. But so on the top box, in the purple box, what we're calling the base transfers. These are sort of transfers that happen every year, and the Fish and Wildlife Fund actually maybe should be a one-time transfer, so I may move that, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. Anyway, so every year, starting last year, we sort of changed the way that debt service is paid for. It's actually a transfer. So this first one is the transfer to the debt service fund so that we can pay the bonds. That's 86.2 million. So that's the sort of the bulk of the base transfers that are happening.
Why the difference between the Senate and the House?
I rounded that column for
Okay.
some reason. I will, on the next version, they'll
Okay.
have the same number of digits in every
Okay.
column. There's always, like, it did it in,
Yeah.
there's always something, right? But you're paying attention, so that's what matters, right?
Okay.
The capital, on line 2, the capital infrastructure fund, so this is, more colloquially known as the cash fund. So this amount, this 14.88 million, this is the sort of base transfer amount, if you will. So this is the, it's not in statute, but the recommended amount, the way that they calculate the recommended amount, and hopefully I get this at least close to right, is sort of, I can't remember, it's 4% of something minus the debt service amount. And then whatever that amount, or 4% of prior year appropriations, I believe, minus the debt service amount. And then whatever that amount is left over is the amount that that is usually proposed to transfer to the cash fund. So in theory, over time, as the amount going to debt service decreases, the amount from going to the cash fund will increase. This is that 14.88 million is the sort of what that calculation will generate for the cash fund.
Is 81 million close to 4%? Are we still at a point where we're borrowing about 4% of the prior year appropriation?
I think, let me look at it.
Okay.
So then the next one is to the tax computer modernization fund per statute. a little bit of the money that the tax department collects, like a very, very small percentage is transferred to the tax computer modernization fund so that they can maintain and update the tax collection computer system. And then the last one to the Fish and Wildlife Fund. So you see this as a transfer into the Fish and Wildlife Fund. This is for their sort of department restructuring and financial restructuring. And then you see an appropriation out of the Fish and Wildlife Fund in the one-time section to spend this money as part of Fish and Wildlife. So that subtotal is $100.5 million.
So is that Fish and Wildlife, is that what you said earlier, that should be in the one time?
I think it should be a one-time because I think it's only gonna happen once, and then they should have their restructuring figured out. So I will double check on that.
They said they were gonna do one, but they might come back next year and say they need to do it.
Well,
You never
I'm
know.
sure that they probably, I mean, part of the planning is
Right.
gonna be like, how much should they be getting in, from the general fund, so.
Right, it might be it might be a multi-year transition or whatever to pick on.
If this was, I mean, we don't have any, we should come.
So the next purple section, this is the one-time transfers. So this is the first one is the one-time transfer of $77 million to the education fund. This is what the yield bill is currently assuming. If there are changes to that, then that number will change. So the information technology fund, I don't think there's been a decision made on the Senate version, so I should highlight this, but the governor recommended a transfer of $15 million to that special fund to deal with the sort of transition to the new payment methods. It would be a one-time transfer. The House reduced this by $5 million and sort of instructed the Agency of Administration to revisit this and then request additional transfer in the Budget Adjustment Act. And I believe it was part of the policy, one of the letters from the administration about the sort of proper way to do this, but that isn't open whether or not you go with the governor or the House's transfer amount on that. The next one's the Environmental Contingency Fund. So this is the funding for PCB remediation through the Department of Environmental Conservation. The governor had it at 9.52. The House reduced it by $4 million. Right now I'm carrying it, adding the $4 million back. That is an open item in terms of how much general fund to transfer to that. The House recommended transferring $450,000 to the Domestic and Sexual Violence Special Fund. And the last one is the reduction in the cash fund transfer, and we're calling this sort of a one-time thing. So to try to maintain the base transfer to the cash fund, but then per conversations between the Corrections and Institutions and the House Appropriations Committees, they determined that they could reduce the transfer to the cash fund by $7.34 million. And we can do a...
But they still have the $14 million transfer.
So the sort of like the net, of course it's both two sevens, the net impact is a $7 million transfer to the cash fund.
Why not just lower the
We could do it that way. We're sort of, I'm carrying it because the way I've been carrying it is leave the base intact and then reduce it on a one-time basis. So it like sort of shows up on both sheets. But that way it's not like, so that next year you sort of assume you're gonna move 14 million over.
Because otherwise you'd have to kind of, because there's statutory language about that cash fund there.
So yeah.
So you have to now stand there or something.
Yeah. The formula is the formula is not in statute. It's just sort of like a agreed upon way to calculate it, but we don't have to notwithstand anything around it. So,
And then I would say that both 7 and 8 for now would be highlighted.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, and I'll do what I've been doing in other places. I'll carry the 15 million for the tech fund.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could even keep it at 10.
Okay.
Since it's open, it doesn't really matter what the amount is.
Yep. Makes sense. I will update that. Okay, and then below are the direct applications. So these are at the end of the fiscal year, sort of what gets transferred from these funds into the general fund. The first one is the AHS earned federal receipts. So this is an annual transfer. It's an amount that AHS sort of earns from the federal government and is available to be transferred to the general fund. The Attorney General settlements, so to the extent the Attorney General, has court cases and they reach settlements, $2 million of those funds are transferred to the general fund every year.
Is that kind of like, ongoing property where the AG's office just like, so based on what's going on, this is how much money we can direct up over, they make the decision, it's not a formula.
Yeah, sort of based on where their financials are working out. And I should flag for this, so a lot of times at this point in the year, we will reach back out to the departments and agencies that manage these transfers and just check in and find out like, how's it going? And hopefully the answer is maybe there's a little bit more money than we thought. And sometimes the answer is maybe there's a little less money than we thought, but since it's been, 5 months since the governor put this together, sometimes there's more information that can help inform this. So I think when you hear from Ted a little bit later about cannabis, there may be some extra money there that's available for this committee to appropriate. But I don't, it doesn't mean that when we go speak to somebody else on this list, they may say that the number is down. So on the one, sometimes, in state budgeting, every time you find a pile of money, you also usually find a hole that you have to fill in. So there's, just keep that in mind.
Cannabis is not on here because that money already just automatically goes to the general fund.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the DFR net transfers, is that one where you can have a big swing in?
Yes, there can be a big swing. I think we've worked to try to moderate the swing a little bit. It used to be some fees only came in every other year, so you get these large spikes. But I think that's been moderated a little bit. And so there are a couple lines of the DFR transfers. So this is sort of the sum of all of those. And some of them are, this is the sum of all of those. Leave it at that. Sports wagering, similar. This is still like a pretty new program, so that there was a big adjustment in the budget adjustment in terms of reducing the amount coming from sports wagering. So this is their estimate for this year. And then finally, the liquor control. You'll also remember this one is reduced based on sort of actual profits as opposed to the number that had been pegged.
So on the sports wagering, that 7.6 was like when the governor created the budget back in October.
Mm-hmm.
So in the VA, they wanted to lower that number, right?
They wanted it to lower for FY25. Yeah, there has not been a change for FY26. They're still the same.
Okay.
For all of these. So in total, so we will reach back out to some of these departments and see if there are any changes to any of these numbers. And we'll let you know later this week if anything has changed, and hopefully it's good news, but no promises.
Do you have your big sheet with you? I wondered if you just wanted to point out to us where these numbers show up on the big sheet, or you can bring it up there, yeah.
I'm gonna bring up the one Friday. I hope they're the same. So right here at the very top of the base transfer one, you'll see the 105.2. It's at the top of the sheet for base transfers. And these ones are base because they're reoccurring every year. And then on the bottom, on line 72, or 71, excuse me, is where you see the direct applications, the 2.5 million. This is the supplemental sheet that it refers to. Match, so that's good.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, how, can you explain again how they match that?
So this 105 should be the line on the sheet in your hand, the base one, should be line 4.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
where is that?
line 19
Oh, I see.
should match line
Like
71.
Oh.
And yeah, line 12 should match line 5 probably. On the other sheet.
Oh, okay.
Line 2.
So support, if you are trying to make changes, if you make a changes on any one of these sheets, it's gonna affect what you have there. Same with the bills. We have that sheet that has all the money that are in different bills.
And this one-time transfer piece is on the very bottom of the one-time sheet, sort of line 76 through 81, is where all those show up. Separately.
This one?
Yes, you're looking at this. This one we just gave. These are when it refers to supplemental sheets.
Okay.
These are those supplemental sheets.
I gotta get rid of my old, yeah, me too. There we go.
Do the direct apps show up on these sheets at all?
Yeah,
They are in the direct apps are on the base sheet. On the revenue side, 170.
Oh, yeah, this one?
yeah, 66 on this, or no,
Reversions?
the direct, on 71.
So one-time transfers. Then, the direct applications, on the other side of that is the base transfer. Got two sheets there. Base transfer there.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that.
The center group on this sheet, the one that's kind of orange, purple and orange, that
And
says
on this sheet,
general fund transfers.
Yeah.
we got
The highlights of things that are open, so line 7 and 8, I said should be open as we, those are two things we're still thinking about.
The Information Technology Fund?
Yeah, that's the one where,
side of that.
that's with the whole SLAs with ADS, they wanted to
Oh,
pre-fund it.
right.
The governor wanted 15, House said 10,
Here,
and then,
it's easier.
you know, what the education fund is,
Yeah.
I just thought we should open it just in case there's a change
Yeah.
in how much we want to transfer. Okay, any questions about these supplemental sheets? Or any other questions on the big sheets? Let's see, I have Emily, big sheet burn here.
I'm trapped in the chair until you leave.
If she created these sheets, you can quiz her on.
What?
Two.
It was,
Okay.
Yeah, again,
and there you go.
exactly.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but not to ask right now. So as we go through these things, you can, of course, I'll reach out to Emily or Amy to get your questions answered, or at least asked.
Right, and similarly, if there are other people you think you need to hear from.
Yeah.
Right, you can get, folks from the administration or from wherever.
So if there's no other questions, we get another break. So my scheduling work is not too precise today, unless Ted could come early. That's the only thing we have on.
That would be great, huh?
No judgment.
I believe
No
Ted is
No judgment.
Thank you.
in Ways and Means right now, so
Okay, yeah,
he cannot come early.
I don't think he can come till 2:30.
We are forced.
You're forced to take a break.